Okay, so one of the first things we need to do is remove our wheel. Remove the wheel. So I'm just going to spray the ball joint area with some penetrant. Let this do its job. Remove the sway bar link, lower nut. I'm just going to get that 18mm wrench on there. Hold the nut for us. And now I'm going to turn the stud clockwise, and that should reverse the nut. So next we're going to remove the pinch bolt that holds the lower control arm ball joint to the knuckle. I'm going to hold this side with a 13mm wrench, and then I'm going to remove the nut on the other side with a 15. Use my 13. Just try to give this a couple spins. There it is. So now we need to remove the ball joint stud from inside the knuckle. To do that, you could bonk right here with a hammer a bunch of times and hope that it pulls down. Or if you have access to an air chisel with a nice long bit, that'll come in handy. Put this down into the hole right against the ball joint stud and drive it down. There we go. Okay, so next we're going to remove the cotter pin so we can get this outer tie rod end disconnected from the knuckle. Now we're going to remove this nut, 18mm. So next we're going to hit right on this knuckle and try to separate the tie rod from the knuckle. So now it's time to remove these 15mm headed bolts, and this is what holds the rear of the control arm to the subframe. Okay, let's remove this bolt with our 18mm swivel. There it is, nice and long. Okay, so let's take our nice long pry bar, just go between the subframe and the lower control arm, and we're just going to try to walk it off of there. Get that out of there. There it is. Okay, so let's take our new quality TRQ control arm and get it installed. So I'm going to go right up like this. That's looking pretty great. Okay, let's grab our two bolts. I put a little bit of thread locker on there. We'll say it's your prerogative, but I would recommend it. Just going to start these two bolts in. Okay, let's grab our long bolt for the front. All right, it's bottomed out. We'll do the same to those two rear. We'll bottom them out. Okay, so let's torque this to 111 foot-pounds. Torqued. Torqued. Okay, so now it's time to get the ball joint into the knuckle. To do that, I'm going to use my long pry bar again. I'm going to go right across the top of the control arm to the subframe, and then I can pry down. Once I'm prying down, I'll line the knuckle up over the top of that ball joint stud, and I'll slide it in. So now I'm just going to wiggle the knuckle around and see if I can get that ball joint stud to work its way in. Rubber mallet. Just going to pay attention inside the hole. Look to make sure that the ball joint stud's slot is lined up with the bolt hole, which it is. And now I can put through the bolt. Wipe down any mess that we made here. Take our bolt. All right, I'm going to use my 13mm wrench on the bolt head, and then I'm just going to bottom this nut out. Okay, let's torque this to manufacturer's specifications, which is 41 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay, here we go. Let's get our sway bar link into the lower control arm bracket here. There it is. Start that nut on there. We're going to bottom it out. All right, so I'm just going to hold that nut, and I'm going to reverse the stud so it tightens the nut. Okay, Let's torque it to manufacturer specifications. So let's torque this to 66 foot-pounds. Torqued. Okay, so let's get our outer tie rod end stud back up into the knuckle. Grab our nut. Bottom it out. Now let's torque it down. 85 foot-pounds. Torqued. Take your cotter pin, slide that through, peen it over. All right, so let's get our wheel up on here. Start a couple of these lug nuts so the wheel can definitely not fall off and potentially hurt us. We'll get all these on and bottom them out, and then we'll torque them to manufacturer specification. Let's torque the lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds. Torqued.